Hello everyone! How well do you really know your chords? For example, can you play a second or first inversion of a D chord anywhere on the neck? In this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to look at what triads are, what inversions are, what voice leading is, and then it will improve our lead and rhythm playing. Also, we'll look at a simple chord progression, which we can make smoother using the genius of voice leading. So what is a triad? It's basically, as the name implies, a three-note chord. It's specifically these notes. If I take a C major scale, like this one here, I've chosen this scale because it's got no sharps or flats. It's a nice, easy key to work with, okay? Now, if you take the first note of this scale and then skip this one, play this E here, and then skip this F and play G, you've got your first triad in the key of C. If you were to play three notes together, it sounds kind of cluttered. So our triads are like this, they're spread out. The next triad in the key of C starts on the second note, skip a note, and you get D, F, and A. Keep going, E, G, and B. Keep going, F, A. There's a C here, by the way. We've kind of come back to here. F, A, C. Then you've got G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F. It's always this kind of three-note thing, which is really easy on a keyboard or a piano. You just move up the white keys like that with gaps, and you've got all your chords in the key of C. If we play this first chord in the key, we get a happy sounding major chord. If we play the next triad, we get a sadder sounding minor chord. Do the same from the next one, you get a minor, then happy major, sad minor, and a weird one at the end called diminished. Every key is the same. The first, fourth, and fifth are major, everything else is minor except that little weird one at the end. Now, why are these called minor? The reason is, if you look at a D major scale for a second, in fact, let's just do this. Let's remind ourselves what we had on the second chord in the key of C. We had these three notes, D, F, and A, and it gave us a sad sounding minor chord. And the reason it's called minor is when you look at a D major scale and harmonize, that's the word, harmonize this scale, you get D, F sharp, and A. So what we've done here is we've taken notes from the D major scale but flattened the third. Okay, so minor chords, when compared to a parent major scale, have a flattened third or a minor third. And here's the rules. So a major triad is a root, a major third, and what's called a perfect fifth. Minor chords have a root, minor third, and a perfect fifth when compared to a major scale. There's two more we're not going to worry about much in this video, but for the sake of completeness, a diminished chord is a 1, flat 3, flat 5, or 1, minor third, diminished fifth, and an augmented chord, a 1, a major third, and an augmented fifth, or 1, 3, sharp 5. But what does this all look like on a guitar? Well, first of all, we've got on a C major scale here, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Okay, this is my root note here. Excuse the ink all over my fingers. We've then got the third note. We're going to skip the second one, remember, play the third note. We're going to skip a note and play the fifth note. So we've got our first triad in C. But to play these notes together, we're going to have to rearrange things a bit. We're going to go root, third, fifth. You've probably never played a C like that. Why would you? It sounds pretty lumpy and it's a bit awkward to play. This is a more common C, but if you look carefully, you'll see or hear root, third, fifth, the same notes. All we're doing is we're adding another root note here and another E string here. Here's another C chord, but this one's kind of rearranged. I've got my root note, then my G, my perfect fifth, then another root note, then the major thirds here, and then another fifth here. Or like this. Here's another C chord here. Again, technically it's a triad. There's only three different notes. I've got my C, my G, that's my fifth, another C, it's another root note. I've got my major third here, which is my E, another fifth, and another root note here. So there's actually a lot of redundant notes in here we don't really need. By the end of this video, we're going to learn how we can play triads like this. They were all chords of C, all triads, and they're all useful, and we'll find out why. Okay, so first of all, we need to know what an inversion is. An inversion is take your 1, 3, 5, and you start on a different note. So let's say, for example, we want what's called the first inversion of C. We take the third and we make that our lowest note. So we go third, fifth, and then put our root over here. Okay, so we've got third, fifth, root. Let's see what it looks like on a guitar. So here's my original chord I had, root, third, fifth. I'm going to start on my third this time. There's my fifth. I'm going to put my root up here. I've got a slightly weird feeling chord. You might think, when am I going to play that? You've probably done this before. You might have played a D like this before. That's actually a first inversion. There's my third, there's my fifth, and there's my root. But we'll come back to that one. Let's do a second inversion of C. Second inversion is where you start on the fifth, and then you play the root, and then you play the third. So you get this kind of thing. Instead of root, third, fifth, or third, fifth, root, you get fifth, root, third, or an A shape. So an A chord is actually an inversion of an A. There's an A chord. I'm just moving up to here. Let me show you then why this is so useful. Let's say we've got a very common, almost mundane chord progression like A, C sharp minor, D, E. This is an unpleasant, jumpy way of playing this. A, C sharp minor, back to here. We could make this a bit easier on ourselves and put the A up here. A, C sharp minor, D, E. It's a bit more compact now. Or if we're playing really efficiently, we could take the A and strip it down to just the triad, say these three notes, which are hiding in this chord, just there. We could take from our C sharp minor, just these three notes. From the D chord, we could take just these three notes. And from an E chord, instead of moving up to here, we could take this C-shaped chord of E. And we'll learn all about this in a minute. So we've got this. Arpeggiate. I could do the same on the next three strings. I could take this little staircase of notes hiding in here, A chord, in a C sharp minor, these three here, in a D, I could take my little A shape, and on an E chord, I could take from the C shape here, these three notes. So I've now got I promised you something called voice leading. Voice leading is simply where you take these notes and you make the jumps between them as small as possible. Imagine a choir trying to sing triad notes. What you would not want that choir to do is have to sing these three notes, and then all three singers have to jump up to this C sharp minor, and then all three singers have to jump to this D, and then have to jump to this E. You'd be going all over the place. What we do is what's called voice leading. We smooth out the changes for these imaginary singers. They don't have to be singers. We can do this on guitar as well. And it makes the chord changes smoother. So let's take a triad of A that looks like this. Okay, it's hiding within this chord. C sharp minor, you've only got to move one note down. Imagine three singers singing this. One singer sings this in the A, carries on singing it. So, the singer that sang this note is still singing this note. And the singer that sang this note is only moving one fret down. But of course we change our fingers around a bit. So it's very easy for three singers to sing this, hence the name voice leading. But it makes the guitar sound smoother as well, especially if you're doing things like arpeggiating a rhythm part. Arpeggiate means broken chord. A to C sharp minor. Now the D chord, we could play this little A shape here, like this. This is part of this D chord. It's actually a second inversion of D. Now what's happened here is the singer that just came from C sharp minor, this one here has to jump up to here. That's not too bad, it's manageable. This singer has to come up to here, and this singer has to come up to here. So we get from this to this. Very manageable for singers to do. Then when we go to E, we could just have every singer move up a tone to this E chord here, or we could have this E chord here. This one's tricky because this singer has to jump to here, this singer has to jump to here, this one has to come back to here. But it's doable. So we've now got A, C sharp minor, D, E. We could make this even easier on the singers and more interesting as a chord progression if we do this. A, C sharp minor, D sus2, E7. Now D sus2 is not one of our normal triads, it hasn't got a third in it, but it still sounds nice. E7. In this case I haven't actually included the major third, so technically it's not a full 7 chord, but it's got the bits we need for our little arpeggiated sequence. And this is very easy for a singer. And this singer doesn't even have to move their note. La, la, la. This singer doesn't move, then goes up to here, and it stays there. This singer here moves back one, back up, Very easy voice leading. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make sure we know all the basic major and minor triads across the whole neck, okay? So what we'll do is we'll start with, let's go for a D chord. We'll go D here. For those that are interested, this is a second inversion because I've got the fifth, the root and the third. I'm then going to take this note here and shove it down here, this F sharp. This is a first inversion of D. I've got third, fifth, root. Then we're going to play a root position, triad. This is the D chord still, root, third, fifth. Then I'm going to put this note, this fifth, on the bottom, giving me a second inversion. These are all D chords. So I've got so make sure you can do that nice and smoothly. Don't rush it. Just make sure it's all clear. Then we're going to take this kind of D chord here and we're going to strip it down to the triads. Hiding in this is this one here, which is root, third, fifth. That's a root position. Then I've got my second inversion where I put the fifth on the bottom. Then I've got, now this is tricky, to play a first inversion. I need to take this major third here and put it down here. That's 9th fret, 7th fret on the D, 7th fret on the G. And then a root position here. So I've gone. Right. Finally, we'll take this chord of D. This is like an E shape. We're going to take this little triad here. This is a first inversion because it starts on the third, goes to the fifth, then the root. Then we're going to play a root position, triad, second inversion, first inversion. So we've got. Okay, then we start again on the same shape we had 12 frets lower. So all we've got is this. Don't lose sleep over the names of the inversion, by the way. It doesn't matter too much. It's more of a technicality, but we do need to know what it feels like to play these. Also practice this as well. Make sure you can move this way. So on just 3 strings. Next 3 strings. Next 3 strings. And finally, the last 3 strings. Let's do the same with minor. Here's a D minor chord, a familiar open D minor. I'm now going to take this minor third. You see I've got my root note there, there's a D, and then that minor third shape we talked about, and the fifth is here. We're now going to invert it. Let's not worry about the name too much. Then we're going to invert it. Then we're going to invert it. This one here, a bit awkward, a bit lumpy sounding on these low strings. 5th fret, 5th fret, and 3rd fret. Then we'll take this D minor shape and break it down to this. Again. Then we'll take this E minor shape, play this. I'll do it again. And back to the D minor we started with 12 frets lower. So the whole thing was. After you've been doing this for a long time, and you've practiced it and you've got really good at these, you can test yourself. You can take a chord progression. Let's say something like D, B minor, G and A. Okay, so but we'll do it up here somewhere. So let's say you've got D here, B minor, G, A, but it's jumping around. It's okay to strum big chords, but sometimes it's a bit in your face, especially on electric. It's nicer if you're playing a rhythm part to do something smaller and just, or even arpeggiate. So let's do this. Let's take our D. There's a nice triad right there. Let's do that one. B minor, well, we could play part of this chord here. If we wanted to though, we could play a B minor 7 and just leave our fingers where they were. And the bass guitarist will be taking care of the bass, so you'll be hearing this kind of thing. Then we've got our G chord. Well, we don't want to really jump to there if we don't have to. There's a G right under our hand, right here or here. In fact, let's do that. So we've got D, B minor with a bass guitarist. Then we've got our G chord here. Our A, we could just shift over this way, or we could play a little A right here. And back to our beginning chord. Now I did make the promise that this would improve your soloing as well, and it can do, because if I'm playing something in, say, the key of C, I could suddenly decide to arpeggiate one of the triads right under my hand. There's a C right here. Okay, there's one here. But I don't have to play just the chord that the band's playing. I can play any chord in the key. So if we look at all the chords that we had earlier in the key of C, I can play any of those as arpeggios. And if I know the neck really well, I can do this. I could be playing in C. Here's an A minor arpeggio, E minor arpeggio. Maybe I could play an F. There's a little G there. I could play a C major arpeggio there. Keep going. D minor, E minor, F, G, and so on. Okay, let's put this to the test. So here we go. In the key of C, C major, A minor arpeggio, E minor, G major one. G, A. So there you have it, that's Triads. I hope that made sense to you. If not, check out my book here. It's all about music theory. I'll put a link in the description below. And this takes you from the basics of the major scale to looking at intervals, triads, and all the way up to modes and beyond. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. You'll be helping me massively, and I do appreciate it. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.